Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. This is a library tour being conducted by myself with a little non-committal help from Lord Ganesha, in which we go through every book in my library, book by book. Not shelf by shelf, not bookcase by bookcase, not subject by subject, but book by book. And not just the books on my shelves now, but all the books that ever have been on my shelves, as we will see as we go through my reading journals, and also all of my ebooks, which is thousands of books by now. And today's book, we're going back to 1935, and it's this thing, which was, as you can see, withdrawn from the Tufts Library. This was de-accessed by the Tufts Library probably 80 years ago. Let me get you the frontispiece here. This is Boston and Boston Legend by Lucius Beebe, with illustrations by E.H. Suydam, Suydam. This is one of them. This is Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market. And that is one of the few illustrations here that's in color. Most of the rest of them are black and white sketches of either full page or spot illustrations at the top of every chapter. Let's get you, since you're unlikely to see this book, let's get you a couple of those. Mount Vernon Street. And this is was B. See, this is a library book. I've never actually seen this when it wasn't a library book. I haven't come across a copy of this with a dust jacket at the Brattle Bookshop or anything like that. I might get it if I encountered it in such circumstances, just as a book instead of as a library book. I might do that. I might get it because but I've never seen it in any format other than this. And this is Beebe, who is very familiar with Boston. This is him just going through all the aspects of Boston, the history of it, the great sea captains, the Revolutionary War, the birth of independence, the period that I love to talk about, where Boston was by a wide margin the literary centerpiece of the entire country, and also neighborhood by neighborhood, with lots and lots of local customs as well. Just a lovely book that, of course, was on my mind. Here's the street. See that? It was on my mind because just recently at the Brattle Bookshop, I came across a little knot of Boston related old books that come from the early part of the 20th century. So this was on my mind because I am, once again, I don't know if the will be there, but once again, I am strongly considering pulling a bunch of books off of an entire bookcase and making it a Boston bookcase. I have enough Boston books to fill a bookcase. They all ought to be together. I would think that they should be together, but haven't done it so far. Maybe I will. Maybe I will sometime in the rest of March. But this is delightful. Beebe is a fantastic writer. He spent most of his life, when he wasn't slurping pricey escargot or swanning around at nightclub tables, he spent most of his life writing about trains and railways and the romance and interest thereof. But every once in a while, he could be pulled away from that to write about something else. And when he did, he's uniformly great company. This is a terrific book on Boston. Boston, of course, it's lore and legend and whatnot. There have been a million books like this. Samuel Adams Drake made a whole career out of doing things like this. But nevertheless, they can either feel cloistered or derivative, and this one doesn't feel either one. This feels is one of the best examples, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's one of the best examples of this kind of book that I've ever read. And I've read a huge number of these things because Boston is my home and I love it. I dearly, dearly love it. So maybe this, in addition to being the library tour of doom for today, maybe this is a way of kicking myself in the butt. Maybe this is, it probably wouldn't take more than an hour to do the kind of re-geographizing that I'm talking about. And as you all know, it would be an enjoyable hour. So I don't know why I keep putting it off. It needs to be done. I just haven't done it. That's all. I imagine a bookcase from ceiling to floor that is not only all of the Boston stuff, all of the books that are specifically about Boston or the books of Boston or the history of Boston, that sort of thing, but also all of my Boston biographies. All the very, those 2 or 3 volume Victorian era life and letter volumes of Boston luminaries that are now long gone and the books are long forgotten. all of that in one bookcase, I think would be really neat. I just haven't done it. Maybe I will do that today. Although every time I tell myself maybe I'll do that today, it's always a day just like today when I actually have uh, work to do. when I have pressing enough work to do. The neat thing about being a, a writer is that, you know, there's very, no matter what you may have heard in the popular press, there's very little in the way of an extremely hard and fast deadline. Some aspects of the writing world, yes. I'm not typically writing in those areas of the writing world, although I have friends who are, and sometimes their deadlines become my deadlines. But nevertheless, uh, I ought to just take that hour so that I have all these things together. I mean, if this isn't prompting enough, then that knot of Boston-related books I got the other day at the Brattle ought to be prompting enough for me to finally make that bookcase. Maybe that will happen. This is the library tour of doom only in the sense of books, not in the sense of the actual library. That's the one thing that this book tour is not doing. This library tour is not going around from shelf to shelf. We're not changing our location. But anyway, that's your library tour of doom for today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. I wouldn't expect any thematic continuity. Lord Ganesha and I like to keep you on your toes. Thank you, BookTube.